Well, it's that time of the year where every quarter we take a look at all the Zetas and Galaxies, rank them best to worst, and also give you the best Zeta orders for every single major team inside of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I just first want to say, well, I guess firstly, thank you so much for all the support. As always, I'm glad you guys find this resource helpful with ranking all the Zetas and the Zeta orders, but as you can see, not quite quarterly. Last time I made this video, holy cow, 2023 has been insane. We made this in January of this year, and now we're in September, so we got a lot of stuff to go over. More like 30 freaking new Zetas that were added to Galaxy Heroes since the last time I made this video. So hopefully you guys are ready to sit down, relax, get into the weed of things. As always, a link down below to the updated Zeta spreadsheet. And of course, there's a lot of new things that we're adding inside of the list. You know, you got to go through here. You can see we have the additions of Captain Rex integrated into the Phoenix lineup, for example, the rise of the Imperial Remnants, which we're going to talk about, things like Reva, and many things such as the Wookiees and unaligned Force users that we also need to talk about as well. So you guys are ready to sit down, relax, man. It's been a minute, but I'm glad we can get a little crazy and talk about all that stuff regarding Zetas. Let's hop into it. So we're going to start at the very top here. I will admit, we're probably, next time I make this list, hopefully not 7 months later, we're probably gonna make a new tier, probably a Beskar tier, because I'm noticing, kind of like when we did our character team rankings, we're adding a new tier. There are just some things that deserve a little bit of separation from the rest of the pack that had that little bit of an edge that truly deserve to be above the heap. Probably next time we do it, I'm letting you guys know, because anytime I do this, people are like, oh my god, my Padme! So we're gonna see gotta make myself laugh. See, I laugh for at myself so you guys don't have to. It doesn't work out that way. Anyways, we're starting with a bangerific one. What? There's this Captain Rex. Oh my gosh, I never heard of the guy. No, at this point, there's been a bajillion videos from me and others, and just post upon post. Captain Rex is the real deal, doing absolutely nutty things. But what Zetas do you really want to strive for? The Zeta that really just takes them to the next level. And of course, there's also Omicron rankings, which I highly recommend you check that one. We did update that one more recent, but Captain Rex and the Lost Commander is the Zeta, making it all happen, given the extra speed, the reduction damage penalty for all these hits, tons of health and protection recovery, tons of defense, tenacity, being able to cleanse debuffs, and tons more turn meter. This is the most important thing. 5% turn meter per debuff that Captain Rex, which he shares through the Phoenix Squadron. He's going to just make massive plays up against things like Inquisitors, Jabba the Hutt that we were showing the other day. Many other fantastic things. This Zeta is huge. It almost could have been an Omicron, but it's not. Fantastic Zeta for not just the Phoenix, but the clones as well. We're kind of going to be blasting through this. We're sticking into Kyber territory. Let's talk about Seer Junda for a moment. Now, I'm going to admit, this team, the Seer Junda unaligned Force user team, before Omicron, it's good. It's good. But you really need the Zeta to elevate it into that Omicron. It's still a very good team without the Omicron, but it's a really good team with the Omicron. And with the addition of Malakos in the next couple weeks, it's only gonna get better. We need to talk about Seer Junda Rekindled. This is finally bringing the unaligned forces into a more solidified team. There's so many unaligned forces that are kind of lingering out there. Inquisitors lost a few, sometimes Kylo Ren and Mass linger around. Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum getting a lot of love. You really need Seer Junda to tie it all together. As we see here, the Zeta ability allows for dark side or light side unaligned force user allies, allows them to basically ramp up every single time an enemy starts their turn. The unaligned forces are getting 5% critical chance, critical damage, offense, which is constantly stacking until the end of the battle. And that's kind of the big thing here. And also, all their unaligned forces ally gain 5% to it when another unaligned forces ally takes damage from an enemy. So they have a way to kind of keep up. The problem is, before the Omicron, they're kind of susceptible to things like daze, and it really shuts them down. That's why you need that Omicron to really lock in their ability and the skills that the unaligned forces team is bringing. We have a couple of Zetas we had to throw in the Zeta, the Kyber tier. Now, you're probably gonna notice when you cycle through all the different tabs for the best Zetas orders for the teams. In the Jedi tab, I didn't even put Cal in a specific team. He is the most plug and play Jedi in the game, and in Territorials, he is the most plug and play character, period. Just give him all the Zetas. Okay, guys. Jedi Knight Cal is one of the most fundamental, transformative characters we've had in Galaxy of Heroes. But in regards to just the framework of the Zetas here, the best Zetas, if you're kind of being a little penny pitcher with Zetas, which I get it sometimes, you're going to want all three Zetas in the guy, but the most important one It's going to be Impetuous Assault. That's going to be the first one to get. As a reminder, if you see a parentheses 1, 2, 3, that's the Zeta order for the specific character, and the tabs will go over a Zeta order for specific teams. So a little bit of redundancy there, but again, trying to drive the point home. You only have so many Zetas. You want to make sure they count. And why Impetuous Assault? Well, there's this little thing on the Zeta ability called, what is it called? An insta-kill! Yeah, just throw it on. This is the big ability. This is a Commander Ahsoka Tano, basically, for the Jedi. It takes a little bit longer sometimes, but nonetheless, you're going to want to have that Zeta on Impetuous Assault. Plain and simple. Jedi Survivor, unique abilities. Give me the second Zeta I highly recommend on the guy. This allows him to get his impetuous stacks very, very quickly. Now, some people might switch around. They might want to get the Jedi Survivor first and then Impetuous Assault, but I would go for Impetuous Assault. So at least you have the insta kill, but the unique ability allows him to get additional stacks and patches every single time he's gaining or changing into a configuration. So going to be a very important part. The Calcast is getting that insta kill very, very quickly. Moving down the list a little bit, we still got some more stuff to talk about here. Marin, the thing about Calcast is about half of the requirements, a little over half, there's 5, 3 out of 5 are absolutely bangerific. Marin, the big debate is for the Cal requirements, who's better, Seer, Marin, it kind of goes either way. We're not going to split hairs here. We're just going to say Marin is darn amazing, elevating Nightsisters to a deadly, godly level where CG's kind of scrutinizing them. Hey, you think you're a little too good up against Jabba? We got to see where that goes. But even if they do get nerfed against Jabba, they are being such a powerful team in the rest of the game that we're not even realizing because we're so used to using them on offense against Jabba. Marin's really elevating it, and Shadow Stride is really where it's all coming down to. Honestly, like, as you're going to see my Nightsister, if you go to the Nightsister tab for Nightsister Zetas, I might be a little spicy here. I feel like this is the first Zeta you gotta apply on the Nightsisters. I mean, this right here just constantly allows her to do some pretty nice stuff. Only downside is, well, you know, it's tied to a specific gear level. We're not getting into that. But anytime she's getting Magic Cell, the next 7 allies inflicted with a debuff or defeated, she loses it, dispels all debuff on the allies, and revives a random Nightsister ally for 50% health. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the big Zeta right here, of being able to cheese, get even more revive. And this really just ties into the rest of her kit. Yeah, the Zeta looks good, but you kind of got to look at the larger kit with Marin and what she's bringing with that unique ability, Last of the Knights, which surprisingly enough, there was no Zeta on that ability, which kind of blows their mind. So by itself, it might not make sense, but the larger picture for Knights and how they operate, Marin's being a big deal when it comes into that. We're going to talk more about her other Zeta later on. New to this list. That's not new news for Galaxiers at large, but new to this list. Third Sister Reva. Third Sister is kind of a mini galactic legend inside of Galaxiers, beating practically every galactic legend and practically every team on offense for the most part. At least when we're looking at a 5v5, 3v3, you know, everyone kind of takes a little bit of a beating in 3v3. But the most important Zeta is if Third Sister Reva is on your radar, which funny enough, some people get Reva before they get Grand Inquisitor. Dang, you guys are lucky. But Third Sister Reva, you definitely want to get that Harbor aggression. That leadership ability needs to be locked in, needs to be dialed in. This right here has, it doesn't seem like a lot on paper, but at the start of the encounter, whenever an Inquisitor's allies defeat or defeats an enemy, all allies are inflicted with 5 stacks of Purge, which brings up to a maximum of 6 basically for the rest of the encounter. So the thing about this here, ooh, man. First off, I'm a little biased because this helps the Purge feat really well in Conquest, but that's not why I put it here. This basically allows the Grand Inquisitor to get a big opening play, starting off ability blocking everyone, getting a bunch of buffs for the team. So again, kind of like Marin, doesn't seem like a lot here, but when you tie in the rest of the complicated kits that exist, this is what really funnels the possibilities of this being able to beat so many Galactic Legends. Starting off with Grand Inquisitor, dropping an ability block. Yeah, good luck trying to bounce back from that. Also threw in Reckless Sweep in here. I could definitely see the argument, maybe not a Kyber level Zeta, but it is a very powerful Zeta nonetheless. Being able to get defense down, healing immunity for 2 turns, and feeding 20% turn meter to the Inquisitors, and the fact that those debuffs can't be cleansed, kind of, or resisted, I should say. That's kind of another reason why you're able to cripple a lot of these big top tier teams that exist in Galaxiers. So, you know, you can probably say, yeah, maybe not a Kyber, more of an Aurodium, but I think next time I make this list, now that I'm prepping it, we're going to expand it a little bit. So some of the characters that might be Kyber might be a little bit lower, might be a little bit higher. This is going to be one of those Zetas I think probably won't be top tier, but it'll be in the future Kyber tier behind Beskar, if that makes sense. I don't want to blow your minds anymore. I bumped up Zori a little bit. I had her in the Aurodium category. Zori, it's, I mean, again, kind of not news at this point. Zori Caprics have been some of the most impactful characters this year. I feel like I may have undervalued it in the ranking system. That unique ability, Spice Runner skills with Zori Bliss able to pop some really powerful opening plays. Well, that's kind of why, or even it kind of just helps them bounce back, getting 100% turn meter, getting the damage ready, trying to really get your resistance. The second they're looking like they're not doing too hot, boom, they bounce right back up and start rolling a train over you. So I really think the Zori Bliss Spice Runner skills, Zeta, just throw it on there. We're throwing it in Kyber. Super, super important. That's basically gonna wrap it for the Kyber tier, but hey, we still got a lot more we gotta talk about here. So next up on the list, why don't we go bounce on over and talk about the Aurodium tier, my senores. The Aurodium tier has a couple of things in here that we gotta break into. So we have a couple of Admiral Trench things we're gonna talk about. We have Baby Cal Kestis, Captain Rex's other Zeta abilities, and don't shoot the messenger. We moved some General Grievous stuff, and oh boy, I know people. Anytime I bring up Padme, she's amazing. She's the best character to give away. Just hold. Can I get there? Let me get there. We'll talk about Padme and Grievous. Again, I think when we expand the list a little bit with the best cards here, I think everyone will be back on the same page. Kind of like, you know, I had to do it for the character ranking. With the character ranking, I knocked Padme down, and God, I was worried for Gary's life there for a moment. But let's start breaking this off. Everyone's favorite character, Admiral Stench. Admiral Bench. Gary, what's it? Admiral Trench. Oh, gosh. So far in the book as one of the most disappointing conquest characters, but we're not into that. We're just looking at the Zetas. Which one should you apply? Truthfully, at the end of the day, that unique ability is kind of, when I'm looking at Trench, yes, you kind of need like all the Zetas to even get anything done with the guy, but that Zeta ability, I Smell Fear, feels good. It feels good. This allows Trench to basically turn to like a B2 super battle droid. Whenever a non-droid except his allies, so Count Dooku, Newt Gunray, whatever the case may be, it attacks, defeated, or evades, Trench has 50% chance to gain 100% turn meter. And then whenever an enemy dispels protection for Trench, they are inflicted a shock, which is great. And then while Trench has protection up, he's immune to buff immunity and healing immunity. Okay. But it's mostly, if you are going to rock Trench, I kind of feel like I may have been a little generous to the guy, but okay. Well, at best, he's an Aurodium level Zeta. It just turns him into a B2 to kind of really get the team moving. The more turns Trench takes, the more assists is going on, the more stuns and shocks and all that other stuff is happening. So it's kind of important. It's kind of the bread and butter to all this guy. We got some other stuff we got to talk with him, but let's talk about Baby Cal Kestis, going down to alphabetical order list. Cal Kestis, this is probably the first Zeta you're going to want to slap on Cal Kestis. I'm persistent. The Zeta ability is kind of interesting because, you know, I guess in a way it is sort of situational, but the teams that he's generally in, like Seer Junda, which was kind of the intended purpose, if you're planning on using Cal primarily of Galactic Legends, Ray, you're probably not going to get much mileage here, but just taking the framework of the unaligned Force user Seer Junda team, generally that team, you know, the Seer Junda team does not go first. And this helps Cal greatly because he starts off with 15 stacks of persistence if the opponent takes the first turn in an encounter. So you think of Han Solo, for example, other type of teams. So again, Rey, because she's so fast, generally she goes first unless there's a faster Galactic Legend. But still, in the framework of the Seer Junda team, kind of a big deal to have that slapped on in there. Other stuff we have to talk about. Captain Rex, again, oh my. What, there's a Captain Rex? Yes, in case you missed the 5 bajillion videos, Captain Rex is here. Wow. With Zeta on the Master Marksman. Now, this is one of those Zetas I definitely think you could argue, maybe not Aurodium, we could maybe knock it down to Chromium. But this allows him, if he defeats an enemy, he gets to reset all cooldowns on Clone Troopers and Phoenix allies, and especially, you know, with him getting so many turns, it's not that hard to get him to finish the shot with Master Marksman. Not critical like Lost Commander, but if you're able to just completely reset cooldowns on Phoenix and Clone Trooper allies, your team is rolling over the enemy team again. So that's why it's kind of a big deal having a mass situation where you can just reduce cooldowns. Yeah, not that bad of a Zeta. Highly recommend it. Coming back to Seer Junda again and again and again. We have the other ability here on Seer Junda called Determined Assault. Now, this one, I will admit, was a tough nut to crack. So as I said, I already said Rekindle is the first Zeta you should apply, and that is definitely the case. But this Zeta, you know, I'm going to stick to my guns. Rekindle should be the first one because it basically starts the little seedlings of a very good team. You need the Zeta to really get something out of the unaligned Force user. But Rekindle basically, or not Rekindle, the Determined Assault basically turns her into somewhat of a Captain Rex with an aerial assault. Huh. Almost like they sound similar, Arnold. You know what I mean? Anyways, yeah, this character's 6 months old, Arnold. We don't need to make any jokes about the kid. This allows her to do 10% of the target's max health, which is constantly stacking. stacking and stacking. It's almost like one-shotting a lot of different teams out there, or characters out there. So you still need the other ability to get their full benefit, because Sirajunda, without a good lead, she's not really utilized to any great capacity. So I still gonna stick to my guns. Sirajunda, Determined Assault, definitely the second Zeta you're going to throw in to get the Captain Rex ability. So, all right, let's talk about some of the elephants in the room. I want to talk about General Grievous. I might as well throw in Padme on here. General Grievous's Metalloid Monstrosity and Padme's, both of her Zetas, were in Kyber tier. In the framework of the game now, and definitely got to keep in mind, this is definitely more of an end game perspective. Obviously, the earlier you are in the game, the teams that lose their depreciation over time, they have a lot more luster in the earlier part of the game. Padme Medal is a pretty solid lead in the early game, but once you get the end game, it's like, it's just kind of situational. Same thing with General Grievous. Again, I would say, even though I'm knocking General Grievous and Padme down, it's mostly from an end game analysis, number one. And number two, we are going to expand it next go around now that we kind of let you guys know, so we can get ready for it. I know we got to give you 3 months heads up on all this. Probably will be back in the future Kyber tier, but in the framework we have now, I just can't see Grievous and Padme Zetas being the same breath as some of the Galactic Legends and Wat Tambor, as well as Commander Rex. They're just not there. But once we expand the list, I hope we all understand Grievous and Padme are still good. They're just not top of the heap. So like, they can't be top of the list. Hope that makes sense. Let's talk about something good though. Harrison Dula and a couple of their Phoenix Zetas are getting bumped up the list, guys. Harrison Dula, Play to Strength, as well as Kanan Jarrus's Cleanse is going to be kind of a big deal for the Phoenix Squadron. Harrison Dula, Play to Strength, massive turn meter push, cooldown reduction, and when you think in the framework, what Commander Rex is doing, Captain Rex is doing, too soon for that, right? He lost that title pretty quickly. But Captain Rex, he just keeps moving the turn meter along, keeps getting so many cooldown reductions from Chopper and many other things. Harrison Dula, oddly enough, is a pretty solid Zeta. It's weird to say put Zetas on Phoenix, but that's the world we're living in. Harrison Dula Zeta is fantastic, as well as Kanan Jarrus's Zeta. Those are kind of the two other Zetas I would recommend for the Phoenix Squad, in case you missed the variety of reviews and in-depth dives you've done. Harrison Dula, Kanan, Captain Rex, those are pretty much where your Zetas should be. Then we have Jedi Knight Cal again. At this point, I said, put all the Zetas on him. I'm not even biased. He's just freaking darn amazing. But if we had to kind of step back and like, all right, I only got 2 Zetas, I have 3 abilities, which one should I do? I'd probably put Jedi Knight Cal Kestis Windmill as the 3rd Zeta to apply. Still very solid. It just basically allows him to target other Jedi allies and gain a bonus turn. So it's more situational than the other Zetas that we talk about, which are kind of the all-around useful Zetas regardless of game mode that he's in. So hopefully that makes sense. And then we have Marin and Moff Gideon that we need to discuss on this list, and of course Scout Trooper, and of course Tusken Chieftain. So there's a couple more things on the Aurodium tier that we need to get caught up on here. With this addition of Marin, as we said, a lot of great stuff happening, but Vengeful Bond is going to be that second Zeta that I would recommend you drop on this girl. Anytime an ally is afflicted a debuff, if Marin has 0% turn to dispel all debuffs from the ally, so kind of a passive cleanse, Marin gains 25% turn, which can't be prevented. Then whenever a Nightsisters ally is revived, there's a 20% chance, more depending on how high her relics is, to inflict enemies with 1 stack of plague for 3 turns at the start of the turn. So the things that Marin's bringing, a lot more survivability. Number 1, health, protection, recovery. Number 2, more revives and a lot more plagues. Kind of split in hairs. I recommend both Zetas, although they're in 2 separate tiers, and one's first priority, one's second priority. Just get them both. They're both really darn good. Don't sleep on them. We got to talk about Moff Gideon and Scout Trooper. So Moff Gideon Zeta, I'm bumping up on the list a little bit here. We are seeing a lot of fun stuff happening when it comes to the situation of the Imperial Remnants. Now, I'm going to probably reevaluate this as time comes down to it, but there might be a very good indication that this is going to be the future Imperial Trooper team. We're about to go into a 5v5 Grand Arena in about a week here, and we want to just kind of just prepare ourselves, because it's looking like so far that the Imperial Remnants are going to be the future Imperial Trooper team. Veer's losing a little luster, Iden losing a little bit of luster, but with Gideon and of course the Scout Trooper with the strategic assessment and the other abilities that Scout Troopers bring to the table, Imperial Remnants are looking to be the future of the Imperial Troopers. Gotta wait and see, but nonetheless, I think it's really cool to see tactical deployment finally not be a useless Zeta. It's definitely got uses. We're gonna start putting it to the test in the future 5v5. And then Scout Trooper here, since we're already talking about the Imperial Remnants, might as well bring this up here. Strategic assessment is the Zeta to apply first. Basically, it just allows, when you're calling an ally to assist, you get to ignore the damage penalty. Basically meaning Dark Trooper, big punch. That's all that means at the end of the day. So highly recommend it. No, if you're making Imperial Troopers work with the Remnants, gonna be the most important one there. Tusken Chieftain, nomadic people. Now this one was a tough one. I could see some logic saying this should be a top tier Zeta. The reason why I'm putting in Aurodium, it's still a fantastic team. It's a very niche team. It really is only good against turn meter heavy teams, not like an all situation type of thing, but still a lot of teams have turn meters. So, you know, maybe it should be a higher level Zeta, but I think for right now it's a good spot. Not top of the heap, but it's very top of the heap against turn meter related teams. This is basically allows them to get all the stuns and the momentum equaling basically your complete demise that we know about. So I think it's a safe bet. Let's keep nomadic people. Tusken Chieftain, the #1 Zeta for Tuskens. If you only had one Zeta to apply, that's the one to apply to create the Tusken faction as we know it. Moving on to Chromium, man. We still got so much more to cover here. Oh my gosh. What? We got more Admiral Trench stuff? Now we got our Admiral Trench fear tactician. I don't know if he's quite feared, but just playing with it for a moment. Fear tacticians should be your second Zeta that you lock in on the guy. This basically gives you the offense ramping and all the fun little interactions with Wat Tambor's tech. The issue that I have with that is Wat Tambor is very expensive to give to the Trench team for minimum. I don't want to say minimal benefit. Yes, there's benefit, but like he's got better. Watt's better with Perimeter Power and Sith Eternal, a variety of other team. But it creates the situation where whoever has the shield generator tech, they don't fall under stealth. So you can give it to like Dooku or Django. A lot of fun ways to work with it. So yeah, it's the second one definitely to apply. Net pause would be the other Zeta if you want to go all in on the guy. This basically allows all separatists out, non-separatists out, non-droid separatists get tactical supremacy. Trench gains the protection up, and as we know, protection up's got some nice things to tie it with it. And then the separatist allies also get protection. So it's the cherry on top on a, I don't know, a #2 pudding, if that makes any sense. We're moving up Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum's Whirlwind up a little bit more from the bronze into Chromium. Now with the Seer Junda being the game, we see that Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum is a very solid spot inside of Galaxy Heroes on that team. For Territories, Grand Arena, she's also great with the Cal Kestis Zeta, which activates, or her Cal Kestis Omicron, which activates her Omicron in Territory Wars. So it definitely, it's an Omicron you definitely want a Zeta that you want to slap on her. It makes her so much more viable. We got Cal Kestis coming in again. Baby Cal with the not so fast. This is still, it's a good Zeta. I think there's other more important ones, but if the enemy had speed down, they're stunned for one turn. So it's kind of a situational mass stun, maybe not, you know, it's kind of like almost a Palpatine level stun, you know, if the enemy had shock, they'll get stunned. Palpatine is a little bit better than that kind of situation, but nonetheless, it's worth throwing it on. We got Drogon on the list. Now, Drogon, we might need to, I'm definitely underselling it a little bit right now. I can almost assure you next time I have this list come out, there might be 5 more Galactic Legends, but for sure we're gonna have GL Leia. With the addition of GL Leia, Galactic Legends Leia coming in probably the next month or so. This is going to be kind of a cornerstone to that team. So we have to wait and see. But as of now, we're seeing that Drogon's bringing a lot of fun plug and play viability with his second in command, turning him basically into a Hermit Yoda for the Rebellion, basically doubling the Keen Stratagem, allowing him to assist, all these other fun things. If you need to see more of an in-depth review, we made one on Captain Drogon the other day. Feel free to check if you want to go more into the weeds of it all. But coordinated shot, I'll also put in here, kind of they're both in the same ish tier. Having him being able to stun the target enemy on his turn is very helpful, especially when he basically takes 2 turns in one, sort of. He does an ability, then he does his basic. Very important ability to try to lock in enemies that are in your way, and this is only getting better. I'm just saying it now. I'm underselling these Zetas because I want to see the room they're going to have to grow with the upcoming Galactic Legends Leia. Garazeb definitely bumped him up a little bit on the list here too. Garazeb is going to be another solid Zeta for the Phoenix Squadron. I don't think it's as necessary as Kanan. Kanan, I think, has a much more important Zeta. If you only had so many Zetas, Kanan and Hera are optional. You don't need them. They're just nice additions. Garazeb, Staggering Sweep, just putting it out there, definitely bumped up a little bit. Nisa, very simple Zeta. Oddly enough, I was expecting like 2 Zetas. Zetas are so expensive lately. 2, 3 Zetas per character. Nisa, just one and done with the yub nub. Pretty simple, 100% Terminator move on her special ability. I don't think it's necessary. But when the Ewok's running a Terminator train and you want to just kind of slow someone down, it's getting a lot of Terminator, boom, drop him a yub nub and move on. Scout Trooper, Imperial Vanguard, throwing this one in this tier. The other Zeta is more important, definitely, to get more powerful. Says this one's kind of a bit weird. It basically turns Scout Trooper into a Admiral Piet via unique ability where you get the Emperor's Trap. It just doesn't make as much sense because, one, it's only contained to if there's an Imperial Remnant in the lead, so only getting it at this point, and so you can't do like, you know, can't like double the Emperor's Trap, which would be pretty nuts. But anyways, this allows us to get Emperor's Trap, which basically instacks potency and offense when you take successive turns. The problem is you're not going to run as much of a train as Veers does, but on the upside, they can still run a decent train, and even a Dark Trooper with like, you know, 8 stacks of Emperor's Trap with all the offensive gains that the Gideon lead and other stuff is offering. It's kind of it's a nice deal. So definitely second tier Zeta for this. Tarful, I might be a little generous on the Tarful. I don't know. I'm putting both of the Zetas in here better together. It's all the fur. I don't even really want to go too much into it. The Wookiees, barring the Datacron thing that's going on right now, kind of a not very used in the game. It's kind of everyone's taken their, for example, their Cals, their Marins, their Seers up as high as they can. Tarful and Saw Gerrera, but I find the Wookiees be a little bit better than Saw Gerrera. You know, if you're going for it's all in the fur, let's do it. Number 1, better together. Number 2, keep it nice and simple. Unyielding Assault with Third Sister, the third Zeta that she has to offer on her kit. With this ability, I think it's definitely, you know, nice if she was at full health. Inflict armor shred on the target enemy. So it's just a simple armor shred. It's nothing overly crazy like the other stuff. You could probably skip out on the Zeta again if you're kind of a little bit on a budget, but you know, this is what it is. Armor shred, I'm sure it helps out in some mild capacity. And then we have the rest of our Tuskens here. Ceremonial Dance, Tusken Chieftain, Centered of Tradition with the Tusken Warrior, and then we have the Tusken Warrior Finishing Strike. So realistically, just to keep it plain and simple, of course, we can get into the weeds and all this. And again, if you go to the Tusken tab, you'll see if you really want to go all in on the Tuskens, what the Zeta order I would recommend on all those different characters. At the end of the day, truthfully, all you really need, Tusken Chieftain lead, and that's it. You could really just sit there and get pretty much, I want to say 85-90% of the benefit that the team has to offer, with the rest kind of adding a little bit more on top of that. So it's nice to know it's really a one Zeta team, and the fact that they can do as much they can, being one of the ultimate counters to Terminator. Kind of big, y'all, kind of big. And that brings us down to the last tier, well, second to last tier. I mean, here, no one really cares about the Carbonite tier. There you go. Nothing really added there, although I will admit, Saw Gerrera was pretty close, but I'm not going to be that mean. One of these days, Saw Gerrera is going to have his day. Bumped up Rose Tico a little bit. Rose Tico is definitely a very solid option for the Resistance, being able to try to get Rose more turns. It's weird to say, I know, but it's not a bottom tier Zeta anymore. If Rose is constantly putting out tenacity up on the team, that's huge for the Resistance. So I just want to throw it out there. It's not Carbon anymore, so yay. But what is new on this list? Saw Gerrera, Adapt and Survive. Freedom isn't free. I don't know what it is. I just don't know. I keep thinking this is their moment. They're going to get better. Drogon came, and then Drogon's so much better at Mon Mothma, Sana Starros team. Saw Gerrera, man, I'm telling you, this is the one team. This and Trench are the one teams that I want to see them be so much better. Like, I'm waiting for a reason, like, oh my gosh, they're so good finally. I would again recommend, especially if you're doing the Jedi Knight Cal event, Tarful, Saw Gerrera, just take them to Gear 12 to unlock Cal. Maybe not even throw on Zetas. The characters that Saw Gerrera uses to really get the best bang per buck, pull from like Sana Starros, Mon Mothma, and it's really not that good of it. It's like okay at best, so not really worth it. I don't, you know, do what you want. There's a tab if you want to invest into the Saw Gerrera Zetas and see what Zetas should I put on Saw Gerrera. It's in there. I leave it out there in case someone wants to go above and beyond. You know, you got some opportunities to do all that. So there you go. You got yourself Rose Tico, Saw Gerrera on this list for the Bronzium tier, and that's kind of where we're going to keep it at for right now, ladies and gentlemen. So my oh my, thank you again for your patience on all this. I've been getting so many comments like, hey, when's the next Zeta review happening? And it's here finally. So hopefully you find it helpful. Hopefully the team Zeta builds are also very helpful. It's nice to know what Zeta's on a character, but really at the end of the day, we're building teams. We're not just building individual characters. You know, there are some that are great individual characters to build up. We want to make sure you have all the info you need to get on top of your game and keep on dominating Galaxy. Thank you all for your support, your patience, more importantly, and just hanging out with me. Truthfully, at the end of the day, it really makes me want to say how it's great to be in the Empire today.